Legacy Award.
Legacy Award
Woo!
earner.
Yeah.
Her picture's up at home office, her picture's everywhere in Pampered Chef, and I'm just going to turn it over to her, a person with the biggest passion.
Thank you. Hi guys, it's conference, we're here, yay! How excited are we? Okay, so Patty Marie and Nancy Jo wanted me to share a little bit about what's been going on in our organization. As you just heard, we're an executive team and we have over 400 consultants, but we've not been having the growth that many of the other organizations in the company have been having. So the truth is, most of the teams that you hear about having this exponential growth are virtual teams. Our organization has been predominantly a cooking show organization until about a year and a half ago. If I had to guess, I would probably say that we were 80% cooking and 20% virtual, and now that's totally flipped. So as the leader of the organization, I will share that I had tried virtual parties in the past, but they weren't very successful, right? Happened to some of you in the audience feeling the same way? I dabbled for a couple of months and basically gave up. After talking to top-selling virtual consultants and leaders and attending executive seminar last October and hearing leaders there share their tips and ideas for finding success, I knew this was something I had to revisit. But more importantly, I needed to bring this information back to my team. Another key component was our organization has a rock star senior director with basically an all virtual team. Our consultants were watching this director and her team basically, wait, I lost myself, okay, and watching this director and her team find success, seeing their numbers and all of their promotions, and wanted more for themselves. So what I did was I revamped our outline so that I could share it with my team, added more engaging posts and games, and invited some of the top virtual leaders in the company to share their tips on my tips and recognition and coming on and doing Zoom trainings for my team and sharing all kinds of strategies so that they can learn what these successful leaders were doing to find the success that they were having. I knew that if I was going to help my team of cooking show consultants embrace the virtual world, I needed to learn it myself first. So I was still doing my cooking shows, but was really embracing the virtual world more than I had ever done before. I was having high sales, I was getting bookings this time around, and I was recruiting as well. I was feeling good and I was feeling confident. But here's the thing. How was I going to get my seasoned cooking show consultants, some of whom were my top leaders, to embrace the virtual world? Well, we all know that the leader sets the pace. In having conversations with my team, I was sharing my success and encouraging them to try it as well. Little by little, one by one, people were willing to give this a try. Once they were seeing the results they were convinced this was something that could work for them as incremental sales, and also for those that were struggling with cooking show bookings at the time. I am happy to share that since our organization has embraced the virtual world, we have seen amazing growth. Here's an example of what has happened in the past few months. So I just want to read, I know you guys can see it on the slide, but in April of 2018, as an organization, we did 231 shows. 1 year later, we did 471. That's an increase of 103.9%. As an organization, our sales were 146,752 last April. This April, they were 231, a 57.4% increase. Our end count, meaning that's how many consultants we had in our organization, was 282 last April. And this year, it was 365, an increase of almost 30%.
Woo!
Amazing. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, how was I going to get my well-seasoned consultants, my well-seasoned cooking consultants, some of which were my top leaders, to embrace the virtual world? Do any of you have teenagers? Any of you have teenagers? Or had teenagers, right? Well, if you do, or you did, you will understand that they think they know it all. They have all the answers, and they aren't usually open to any of our suggestions. Well, to share her story, please welcome Advanced Director Gina Oliveri.
Yay, Gina!
I kind of was that teenager, I guess, a little bit. But first I want to say, when Becky mentioned before about what's your word, mine was scared. That was my word. But sometimes you just need to do it scared, and that's what I'm doing here tonight, because I've never spoken in front of this many people before. So if anyone would have told me last year that I'd be standing up here speaking, and about virtual parties, no less, I would have said you are absolutely crazy. So you see, for 18 years this month, I was a cooking show consultant with some catalog shows here and there. And for years, I was able to hold anywhere from 10 to 12 cooking shows a month. Then the last couple of years, things started to change, or I should say, the world started to change. Now, anyone that knows me knows I don't like change. And I think some of us old dogs can relate. As a matter of fact, for those of you that have been around a while, do you remember when we had to switch from Pampered Partner to the new site? And do you remember how they gave us 1 year to do that? I was one of the ones down to the last day, to the deadline doing that, because I just don't like change. So what I found over the past couple of years was, because the world was changing, I wasn't filling my calendar with as many home cooking shows that I'd always done. I didn't understand why. People were having fun, they loved the cooking shows, the products, but what I was hearing more and more was, it's just too crazy busy. So Pampered Chef has allowed me to leave my corporate world when I started this 4 months into it, and this was my full-time income. So doing less cooking shows, which in turn was cutting my pay, that just was not going to cut it for my family. So PC was also what I loved, it was my passion, and it was a huge part of my life. So giving up was also not an option. Now, when I tried virtual parties the first time, I'm not gonna lie, I hated them. I did roll my eyes like a teenager every time Sharon brought it up, but I tried the 1 hours first. They barely qualified, and I felt like they were just boring. Fast forward to last year. Our amazing leader, Sharon, she continued to share with us all the success consultants across the country were having with Facebook parties, and she continued sharing all the incredible tips that she was learning from many of you amazing people and leaders right here in the room tonight. Now, I remember clearly the moment that I decided that I would stop rolling my eyes and I would give the virtual world another try. And that I did, and then everything changed. So at first I added some virtual parties to my calendar along with cooking shows, and I switched to running them to week-long parties. My hosts and guests were loving them. They were loving the ease of being able to check in whenever was good for them during the week. And I quickly started doing $1,000 virtual parties. I couldn't believe how many bookings I was getting, and before you knew it, I was running at least 20 to 25 virtual parties a month. And for the first time ever, in 18 years, this past May, I did not leave my house once to do a cooking show. And as much as I still love my home parties, I kind of was okay with that. So here's my results, because I decided to give virtual parties another try. So for the past several months, I've been submitting about $13,000 a month in sales. My paychecks have been consistently over $5,000, and I will tell you, never in 18 years have I had paychecks over $5,000. I now recruit on average 3 new consultants a month, and I just had 2 downline director promotions in 1 month on my team, first line, which has me very close to re-promoting to senior director.
Woo!
I'm also excited because I'm back to earning the top level incentive trips by conference, and for once I can actually see the elite level as a possibility.
Woo!
So, for time reasons, I'm not going to go into a lot of tips. We, shared a lot of tips, but I'm just going to tell you a few that I feel have kept my virtual parties successful. So one is I use a checklist. Now, if you're running multiple parties a week, I encourage you to use a checklist so that you make sure that you don't miss a thing. Now, if you can remember it all in your head, more power to you, but this about to enter menopause girl cannot, so I need to have a checklist. You want to host coach your hosts with messages every day, and if she's not posting what you're asking her, don't hesitate to remind her about how important it is, because being interactive on the party is how it will determine the outcome of the party. Sometimes the hosts just need a little reminder, and then all is good. Ask and share the business opportunity with every single host before, during, and before the party closes. Remind them of the kit credit that they can use. If you use a posting service, I personally use Post My Party. When you post videos, only a link comes through with those videos, and I think it's more inviting for somebody to see an actual video playing when they scroll through. So what I do is I go back and I edit that link to an actual video so they can see it in their news feed. And the last one is really key, and that is to be intentional about your bookings. What do I mean by that? Well, don't just rely on your party posts and graphics to get you bookings. Don't think just because you posted about the upcoming host special that they'll book, or if you post how your host will get a 50% off item at their party, they will book. You need to be intentional, and what I mean by that is first, for every person that places an order, you want to send them a private message thanking them, letting them know when the party is closing, and that's where you can ask them if they've ever given any thought to hosting a fun online party. Now, how many of you are saying, but they don't reply, or they never see my message? Well, that's right, and you will definitely have that, but you can't drop the ball there. Here's where you have to get intentional, and that's where you need to maybe contact them through text or phone. So you have to take it that next step. That's made a tremendous difference in the amount of bookings that I get. Now, will they all respond? No. Will they all book? Definitely not. But you will absolutely see a difference in the amount of bookings that you will get. You also want to make sure that you keep track of wish list items guests have. When they comment on a post about which products they'd love to get but they can't get now, you want to remind them how they can get it for free for 50% off or maybe 60% off. And that's where my checklist comes in handy, because that's where I make all of my notes. Now, a common reply to a booking might be, not now, I have too much going on. Have we all heard that before? Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly don't want to leave off by just saying, okay, well, thanks for joining the party. What you want to reply is something like, okay, would it be okay if I check back with you in a month or so to see if it's a better time for you? Almost always they say yes, that I can. Or what about the guest who replies, I'm not sure, I'll have to think about it. Again, you don't want to leave the ball in their court. You want to reply something like, okay, would it be okay if I check back with you before we close out Susie's party over the weekend? Again, they almost all say yes, definitely. And before I file away any virtual party, I always make sure I leave no stone unturned. I check for possible recruits, bookings, asking my hosts, etc. Now, do virtual parties take more time? Some may even say they take more time than a cooking show, and as true as that might be, the way I look at it is I'm still working my virtual parties from my home, or out on the go, or even here from conference where I have them running, at a time that's convenient for me. And if I'm getting more sales because I can run so many more of them, then I'm okay with putting in more time. This is my job, this is my business, and I've spent years building it, and I would never give it up. So my message here tonight is, if you haven't yet tried the virtual world of Pampered Chef, or maybe you're one of us old dogs who don't like change, maybe you tried it, you weren't successful like I was, or maybe you're just rolling your eyes like I did. Give it a try again. Don't be scared. Do it scared. And if I can learn this, anyone can learn this. Trust me, I wish I would have jumped in sooner, but things happen when they're supposed to. And that's it.
Okay, so I just want to give you a look into what's happened to Gina's business since she started the virtuals. So, Patty's going to flip.
Where am I flipping? This is it. The screen? Next screen?
That's me, no?
Yeah, but you this is you. I gave you stats. Now you did it.
I don't have my stats.
Oops.
Is this the only slide you have?
Well, what were your stats? You gave me all your stats.
Do you have another slide?
No.
Okay, moving right along. Gina's had tremendous success with the That's okay. It's all good.
Yes.
So now I'm going to introduce Advanced Director Lisa Noto, who wasn't exactly excited to try virtuals. With that being said, I basically dragged her kicking and screaming into the virtual world. And here to share her story is Lisa Noto. Before Pampered Chef, the only public speaking experience I had was yelling at my husband out on the front lawn. I come forward with the funny, so hopefully you'll laugh because I'm unmedicated. Another round of applause for my and Gina's fearless leader, Sharon. When I started in 1998, Becky Yorn was in preschool. I have bras older than her. I do want to thank the amazing leaders in this room. I've had a girl crush on Nancy Joe Ryan, and Patty Moserino, and Marie Friday forever, and Mara Ross, and all the greats. I've had girl crushes on them forever. And my very first conference in 1999, I was 7 weeks postpartum. And I didn't know what to do. You know, I had a newborn child, and I said, do I stay, do I go? And I looked in the bassinet, and I said, if I stay home, it'll be the same Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of my life. But if I go, I might change the life of that child I'm looking at. I didn't think I'd cry. Menopause, be afraid. Same thing Becca's going through right now, we're going through it, it's different. This is your future. So I started in 1998, and Sharon was doing full service checkout even back then because she listened very carefully to a conversation I had with a friend at the show, and life was very different then than it was today, and she had overheard me say that I aspired to be a stay-at-home mother. And this is why. I was working full-time, and my mother, who was alive at the time, was watching my child, who was 18 months old, and I used to think, I wasn't so happy with the job you did raising me. Why am I letting you watch him? If you're Italian, you understand that joke. But I started, and I still to this day, I do an 8 to 10 show a month in the cooking show arena. Because PC stands for Pampered Chef, it stands for partying while you're cooking, and it stands for partying on the computer. Right? And it has paid the bills, and it has changed my self-esteem and my outlook on life for the last 21 years. I added virtuals, and I went in kicking and screaming. Now tonight I was supposed to come up here dressed like a giant baby. I was supposed to be wearing a diaper with my hair in pigtails, a giant lollipop and sucking my thumb. Then I looked out into this room and I said, no way. You guys have cell phones on this right now. Sharon, does my butt look big in this diaper? So, I started, like Gina mentioned, we started right around the same time, and I started Pampered Chef so long ago that our phones were connected to the walls.
Yes.
Our shows were submitted on spreadsheets.
Yes.
We didn't mail them until we were balanced to the penny.
Right.
And Sharon was too afraid to come to conference. That's how long ago that was. Can you imagine? I remember when they started talking about virtual shows, I was thinking virtual, what does that word even mean? And I Googled it, and you know what it said? Not physically existing, but made to appear to do so by software. Carried out by a computer over a network. I'm like, what kind of sorcery is this? And I said, Sharon, thank you, but leave me alone. Well, times they are changing. And there's a new change even at this conference. They've now implemented the option to exercise.
Never happened
If you see me running, you better start running too, because that means somebody's chasing us. But the virtuals became possible to ignore. Do you know why? Because my youngest child decided to go a different route and choose a very expensive private school for college. When I looked at the tuition, I thought, I must add the virtuals because this is going to be the difference. And she attends University of Connecticut, UConn. And UConn stands for, you've conned your mother out of too much money. But so many in this company were having, and I say this word alarming, but in an exciting way, such alarming growth, that what rose to the top of my mind was I was feeling very left out. What does this mean? So, like Sharon has always been my go-to girl. She was already on speed dial since 1998, but she said to me, I promise I'll stay by your side until you learn these virtuals, I'll answer all your questions. And she did just that. And before I knew it, I was plugging along. I wasn't happy about it, because honestly, how do you say no to her, really? But I wasn't happy about it, but I knew it was important, and I knew I needed to do it without crybabying about it. The very first, you know when you go fishing for the first time and you throw your reel in the water and you actually get a fish, and you're like, if at first you do succeed, try not to act so surprised? My very first really serious virtual show, and I mean the serious one, where I did the homework, I did what was involved, I did what was necessary to be knowledgeable on it, I wasn't just fooling around. My very first one was a $1,700 show. And I actually fell in love with this woman online because even though we never spoke on the phone, she was the most charming person through a computer that I have ever encountered in the 7 years of Facebook. That woman's name is Lisa Harris. Is she here? Stand up. Now this was in January of this year, okay? She was very hesitant to host in the party that we originally were introduced in because she was not at all confident that it would be a successful online show. So whenever I have an objection, I always say to the person, if you weren't concerned about the outcome, would hosting be fun? If you weren't concerned about the size of your home, would hosting be fun? If you weren't concerned about the amount of money your friends would or would not spend, would hosting be fun? And she said, okay, I'll be a maybe for now. Well, she held that $1,700 show, and we were thrilled, and it was in the double free month in January.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And then I asked her to join my team. And again, her hesitation presented itself. And she said, well, I'm really not sure I'll be very successful at it, so I don't know, I need some time. Well, with a little tempting from me, and very much common sense on her part, on January 31st of 2019, she signed on. She promoted to Fast Track Director on June 1st. From February 1st till just about a week ago, she has sold, completely virtual with one cooking show, because she did try a cooking show and she succeeded, but 99.9% virtual. She has sold over $50,000. She's our #1 at Disney. This is her very first conference, and her pampered partner, her husband, is with her on this trip. Now, if I was too scared, and I have got chills, Lisa, you can't see them from where you're standing, I've got chills because had I never tried, had she never asked, had I never tried, the three of us would not be standing here in front of all of you guys. Thank you, Lisa. Now, if that doesn't inspire you, there's a special person in the room named Jenny Gillen. There's my girl Jenny. Stand up, please. I recruited Jenny at a cooking show just a little over 5 years ago. And what got her was the penne al fresco. When you show a girl from Long Island how to cook pasta in the microwave without boiling water. And Jenny had a very serious product addiction. And she said to me, I would love to become a consultant, but even if I consider it, I'm only going to do catalog shows. How many of you remember that ancient little term? For you in the front of catalog shows when we used to, no, never mind. Becca, you know what a catalog show is? Now here's the funniest part. Jenny was a very casual catalog show consultant. We lived about 40 minutes from one another, so it wasn't every team meeting that she made it out to. And she was a self-starter, so she just did what she was doing, and she was plugging along. And then she said that I actually posted something about Facebook shows. I was like, I did? I had no record of doing it, but she said that's something I could get behind. Well, tonight, this part-time catalog, and hold your applause until I get it all out, okay? This is amazing. Tonight, this very casual catalog consultant who has a husband, 3 children, and is a psychologist on Long Island, which is a lot of business out there. She is accompanied by 11 of her teammates, 8 of which are walking for a new title at this conference. They're in their 2nd month of qualification for executive directorship. And I and Sharon and Jill, we could not be, I think I've gained weight from too much pride. Is that possible? I am in no way qualified to teach a class on virtuals. I'm still very much a cooking show consultant, but I am smart enough to know that the virtual world can no longer be ignored, and it's just foolish to not get on that train. So do them wrong, do them incorrectly, do them so they don't qualify. Because the classy company that we work for now gives out 10% off for a year for all hosts that give it their best shot. If Macy's told me, come in, if nothing fits, we'll give you 10% off for a year, I'm going. Now I'm very much, would you think I was a people person? It's very hard for me to not socialize at a cooking show, so I said to Sharon, the only thing that worries me is I won't be able to be truly sociable, be myself on Facebook. And I don't know why so many of us are frightened by Facebook Live, because when we go into someone's home, that's a cooking show live. Right? So here's my tip if you're just going to start out with virtuals. I have that old trusty list of 100 boxes on a sheet of paper. And I make it a game with myself. I cannot complain about my schedule and look at blank boxes at the same time. So if I'm asking someone, I'm writing their name in a box. If I'm asking someone, I'm writing their name in a box. So if I'm looking on a piece of paper on my desk, it's just boxes. If I'm looking at a sheet filled with names, regardless of the outcome, it's a numbers game, so I know I'll be getting enough bookings from those boxes. It's just a visual for me. Be a good question asker online. Because no matter whether we're in person or on Facebook or Instagram or wherever else, or can you not ask questions on Instagram? I don't know. Okay. Wherever you are in life, the better the question you ask that gets the next person talking, the more they will naturally fall in love with you if you allow them to speak. So when you ask good questions, how do you know the host? What's your biggest complaint when preparing meals? You know, how many of your friends share recipes with you? You know, if you just, whatever, just come up with some good questions. Where do you work? Do you love your job? I bet you'd be really good at it because, you know, Nancy speaks very highly of you. You get them to answer your questions, they'll just naturally, they'll be like, oh, this person's nice to speak to. And you'll engage in conversation. I tried something this week that actually is a brand new little tip. I had my host pick 5 people at random that she invited to her group, or he, but for now it's just she's, invited to her group, and I said, could you please introduce them to me and tag all of us, and just state why you added them to your party. So she tagged 5 of her, I guess her closest friends on this group. She told me in the group why she invited them, what she thinks they're good at or in need of, and then she tagged me. So right away we were all in the same post. And if somebody's tagging you and writing about you, you want to see what they're going to say. They all started to respond to that post. Thanks for having me, blah, blah, blah. So that was just a cute idea. Ask about hobbies. Ask about their daily activities. Expect out of yourself what you would expect out of someone you love. Just now, my 23-year-old son said to me, how's conference? And he knows that's the dumbest question to ask. Because if you don't want your mother texting you back 4 paragraphs, don't ask a dumb question. And I said, having the time of my life. And he texted back, I'm so proud of you.
18, 20, 30.
That baby's going to be born. That baby's going to grow up. These babies are going to cost a lot of money.
And they're worth every penny.
And some of the best friends you'll ever have in your lifetime are going to be in these walls. So I want to thank, on behalf of my hardworking team, my hardworking brothers and sisters in this room, and above all my director and my upline director, Jill Lerner. You'll never know how much change you've caused. Good and bad. I could not be more proud of these 2 women. I mean, honestly, this was stepping out of their comfort zone, and they are rocking it. And like I said, the leader sets the pace, and their teams are starting to embark in the virtual world, and they're doing incredible. So I know Patty doesn't have their stats, but I just wanted to share. I shared with you April. So I want to talk about May. So in May, as an organization, we did 195 shows. Because we started embracing the virtual world, we went to 490, an increase of 151%. In May, sales were 120,000. They went to 253, an increase of 110%. Guys, if you are not having that type of growth in your organization, it's because you are not adding virtual shows to your organization. Our end count in May was 263. It ended at 420, an increase of 59.7%. Because if you're offering the business opportunity and you're offering them the opportunity to be a virtual consultant, they will jump on it. It's just a changing world. In June, organizational shows 198 in 2018. This year, 522, an increase of 163%. Org sales 157, org sales 248, a 57% increase. Director count, 2018 we had 11 directors, and in 2019, 18 directors, 63.6% increase. You know, guys, if you have a full-time job, you're grateful if you get a 5% raise at the end of the year. You have the ability to give yourself 100% of a raise. I mean, that is crazy. You can control everything that happens in your business. Just be intentional. Thank you.